I was not expecting the acoustic guitar. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly, and in this video I'm going to be listening to the album Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses from the band Slipknot. Now Slipknot is a band that I have been really getting into here on my channel. I've done reactions for their first two albums so far, their debut self-titled and Iowa, their second album. This one was released in 2004, so 3 years after Iowa, and I'm just really curious to see how their sound is going to evolve from their first and second albums now into their third. A lot of you have been saying they kind of take this one in a slightly more like toned down melodic direction. I can't really wrap my head around Slipknot being very melodic, so yeah, I'm just very curious to hear this album and see what I'm going to think of it. Alright, I am so excited to listen to this album. So starting off we have track 1 called Prelude 3.0. There's definitely a really interesting sound to this one. It almost sounds like a slightly distorted electric guitar, maybe? I really like that percussion. It definitely has a softer sound to it compared to what Slipknot typically delivers with their percussion. I like that electronic stuff that they're doing. It's very subtle, but it adds a cool tone to this song. But now it's over. Now it's over. There's a really great crashing sound that the chorus to this one has. It's like a wave rolling in. It just like washes over you. That was track 1, Prelude 3.0, a very interesting way to start this album off. I really liked how they were incorporating so many different elements of sound on that one. For sure, less like industrial kind of grating metallic sounds on that one, just more soft sounding, a little bit warmer in a way. So moving on, we have track 2 called The Blister Exists. Okay, this one's bringing that percussion back. Like, this sounds more like an earlier Slipknot song. There's like really faint, distorted, kind of electronic sounding vocals. I like how his vocals are going back and forth so much on this one. Like, he's bringing this great aggression, but then the next line he'll like almost whisper in a way or sing really subtly. Very cool percussion. This song's got some great guitar on it too. That's definitely standing out. There's like a very militaristic sound to this one just because of that percussion. Well, that was track 2, The Blister Exists. Definitely more in line with their first two albums compared to the first song on Volume 3. And then Corey's vocals had that amazing intensity to them as well. And that percussion was so cool. It was really unexpected, but it lended a really precise sound to that song. There was a really kind of sharp, quick rhythm to it, which I just thought was really cool. All right, moving on to track 3, we have 3-0. What are those noises in the background? I can't even tell. Some sort of weird distorted instrument. Oh yeah, this one's got a really great flow to it. Yeah, you hear those like weird distorted sounds going on. I love how they're infusing so much electronic stuff on this album. Yeah, on this album I'm noticing Corey's bringing that amazing intensity to his voice at times, but then he'll kind of balance it out with a slightly more like smoother or more melodic way of singing too, and he's kind of going back and forth on that a lot. Track 3, 3-0. The whole like back and forth rhythmic pattern they had with that one was just really, really well developed. I loved all of the instrumentals. And again, with the little electronic things they're throwing on, it's kind of unexpected, but I really like it. It's lending a really cool tone to this album. But I'm going to move on to track 4 called Duality. I push my fingers into my eyes. You see what they're doing with like the rhythm of all of these songs? It's awesome. They've just got a really unique rhythm going on. I love it.
I have screamed until my face collapsed. I've waited as my time's elapsed. I push my fingers into my eyes. If the pain was on, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah, Corey's vocals are definitely a little bit more restrained on this album. They've got more of like this really subtle, kind of menacing sound to them.
I'm not gonna make it. All I've got is insane.
All I've got is insane.
I push my fingers into all I've got is insane.
That was track 4, Duality. Definitely a little bit of a different tone on that one for Slipknot. A little bit more reined in with Corey's vocals. They kind of had a more, I guess, melodic tone to them. That's not exactly the right terminology, but they're just less abrasive and like all out intense than his vocals were on like the previous album, Iowa, that I reacted to, where he just kind of had this amazing harshness to his voice. And I'm not picking up on that as much on Volume 3. He's definitely bringing it at times, but he's kind of balancing it out with this more melodic side to his voice, and that track Duality definitely highlighted that. Alright, up next is track 5 titled Opium of the People. See, we've got that percussion again. I love it. I like how they did that. He said, I don't care, just make it stop. And then right there, the track kind of changed a little bit. That guitar has such a great tone to it. Track 5, Opium of the People. That one just had amazing energy to it, and the rhythms of these songs, like how they're kind of changing up the rhythm and keeping you on your toes, is so entertaining. I love it. In a lot of ways, actually, this album is reminding me of Slipknot's self-titled album. Even the vocal delivery, there's kind of some like kind of new metal-esque elements on this album where there's kind of like a borderline hip-hop sound to it at times. But I'm going to move on to track 6 called Circle. I was not expecting the acoustic guitar. There's some cello. Huh, I guess this is the more melodic side to this album that a lot of you were mentioning. All of my endings waiting to begin. Lyrically, I kind of wonder if this album, Volume 3, is maybe like a sort of reckoning after all the destruction and hatred coming off Iowa. It's almost like this album is just like he's kind of reached the bottom of it all and he's done being in that place and he's trying to start fresh with something new. I like this end part to this song. That was track 6, Circle. Very different direction for Slipknot for sure. Way more melodic and toned down. I really liked Corey's vocals on that one though. In a more subtle way, you can almost like really appreciate how beautiful his voice is. I love how he can bring the intensity, but then that song just really highlighted how he can do the more restrained melodic stuff just as well. Alright, up next is track 7 called Welcome. Sound effect in the background almost sounded like a siren a little bit.
What is wrong with this?
I love this guitar. It adds such an awesome fresh sound to this album.
Welcome to the transformation. Welcome to annihilation. Everything but good and
That was track 7, Welcome. Perhaps, maybe the song on this album that has gone the hardest so far. Their DJ Sid was doing a fantastic job on that track. I was picking up on some really cool DJ effects going on, like the turntables. But moving on to track 8, we have Vermilion. I actually really like this kind of restrained, ominous tone to Corey's voice.
she's coming home.
His vocals just changed a little bit. Now they're sounding a little bit more like weirdly hopeful, kind of. That guitar, I love it. I like those little chiming sounds in the background. Track 8, Vermilion. I really loved how eerie and creepy that one was, especially toward the beginning on those verses. His voice was so like withdrawn and withheld. A more subtle one, but it still had such an amazing intensity to it. It just like slowly built up. It was kind of a slow burner of a song. Alright, up next is track 9 called Pulse of the Maggots. Again, they're kind of using like a militaristic sound to this one. It almost sounds like an army marching in place. Very, very interesting sound effects on this album. I love them. This guitar is delivered so quickly. It's got like a great kind of manic sound to it. Track 9, Pulse of the Maggots. I loved how his voice just got really deep there at the end. A little unexpected ending to that one. And I liked how they had kind of that steady rhythm, but then the guitar would come in and bring like this kind of crazy insanity to its sound. It kind of was a great contrast. But I'm going to move on to track 10 called Before I Forget. There's just a great like back and forth rhythm to this song. I love how he does that with his voice. It's so smooth sounding, and then he just like builds it up into the really intense delivery. Kind of an interesting ending to that one, but that was track 10, Before I Forget. Again, that one kind of started, and right from the get-go, it was just like really fluid throughout the whole thing, like a great flow to that one. All right, up next is track 11 called Vermilion Part 2. All right, that acoustic guitar is back.
She seemed dressed in all of me, don't know what to do.
There's someone harmonizing with Corey, and I don't know if they've just layered his voice or if it's another singer.
But I won't let this build up inside of me, inside of me.
All right, and we have the stringed instruments coming back, kind of that orchestral tone to this one.
Torn into pieces, I won't know.
I liked that piano there at the end, but that was track 11, Vermilion Part 2. Definitely very appropriately titled, lyrically very similar to track 8, Vermilion, kind of the same lyrics being repeated. The tone was very different though. Track 8 had kind of like a really creepy, sinister sound to it, and then that one, track 11, Vermilion Part 2, it was almost like he had finally let go of that tension. There was kind of a calmness, a really relaxing sound to that one. But I'm going to move on to track 12 called The Nameless. Alright, I don't think this one's going to be quite as peaceful as that last one. That was really unexpected. That guitar is so perfect. And then this transition too is just so cool. This track is just throwing everything on it. It's got like different parts to it. It almost sounds like he's taking a breath and they've added some distortion to it. That was track 12, The Nameless. The way they had like different parts to that song was so fun to listen to. It just threw me for a loop, especially on that first transition from the really intense start to that song, and then like that chorus came in and it was so smooth and kind of like buttery with its sound. It just was such a drastic transition, but it worked really well. All right, moving on to track 13, we have The Virus of Life. not exactly sure why, but this one is reminding me a little bit of Reptile by 9 Inch Nails here at the start. This one is so interesting to listen to. I keep expecting it to like get really like all out intense just with him yelling everything, but they're keeping these vocals really distorted and kind of in the background. You see what I mean? Like that intensity comes and you just expect the vocals to all of a sudden get like really clear, but they're not. They're keeping this distortion on them. There's an amazing heaviness to this song. It's almost like you're getting buried under all of this instrumentation. That was track 13, The Virus of Life. It had such amazing industrial tones to it. There was such a heavy weightiness to the instrumentation, and the fact that they kept the vocals kind of more pushed to the background on that one, it almost mimicked like someone getting buried under all of that weightiness from the instrumentation. Really cool how they did that. But I am really looking forward to seeing how this album is going to end on its last track, so I'm going to continue on with track 14 called Danger, Keep Away. That subtle electronic beeping. It's so cool. I don't know why, I just like it. I guess they're ending this album on a more melodic note. I love how they're pairing the more melodic tone here though with all of these little subtle electronic things. Like there was just some like really mild glitching sound effects there.
Without hearing what I have to say.
That was track 14, Danger, Keep Away, the last track on Volume 3 by Slipknot. A more withdrawn, melodic ending to this album. They just had some like really subtle electronic stuff infused on that one too, and something kind of depressive and somber about the tone of that last track. Just it definitely sounded like an ending to something, almost like he was mourning for something. That was just the tone it was giving off. Alright, so that is going to conclude my reaction to Volume 3, The Subliminal Messages from Slipknot. This album was definitely a little bit of a departure from Slipknot's more heavy, kind of industrial sounds on their first two albums. This one definitely embraced a more melodic side to Corey's vocals at times. We had some orchestral stuff, even some acoustic guitar too. Definitely a little bit different on a few of the tracks, but they still fused all of that amazing intensity and aggression that I loved on Slipknot's first two albums. The tracks that maybe stand out to me the most are perhaps track 8, Vermilion. Actually, I loved the really creepy, sinister tone of that one. And then I think right now my two favorites are kind of tied for track 12, The Nameless. That one just had so much crazy insanity to its sound, and also track 13, The Virus of Life, had an amazing like intense industrial vibe to it. But this whole album was really fantastic, and I'm definitely looking forward to going back and re-listening to it and just really like sinking my teeth into the sound of this album because there's a lot going on. But yeah, as usual, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.